About to talk about watches, baby. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Came out here to the park to do a live, and of course, it started raining. Started with a drizzle, and it started picking up. So we got a little bit of coverage to protect ourselves, but the camera angle is going to be a little bit weird. I was expecting to have a table to put it on, but all of the tables, even the ones under the trees, were wet. But we're not here to talk about the weather. We're here to talk about watches, baby. So first and foremost, we probably should do a wrist check. And again, we're going to be slightly in a weird angle here because of what I mentioned before. But let me see how I can adjust that a little bit for you guys. Hold on one second. We'll leave it like this for now, but we're going to flip things over because I actually brought my watch case that has a few things, a few projects that we've been working on here. So I got some watches that I'm going to show you guys. I have reviews of the watches coming out. If not, they're already going to be out. So let's get into it. First and foremost, wrist check. So today I'm wearing the Dad Mods watches prototype. Now this watch isn't out yet. We're going to get a better angle of it because I know this is not the greatest, but we've been playing around with it. I've been writing the script for it. So I have a more detailed review, obviously. I have to talk to the owner of the company, JP, about what he's looking to do with the release. He already mentioned that he's going to jump off with Kickstarter. I can tell you now that it's fantastically built. And it has a lot of character in it where it's going to intrigue a lot of people. I have a really good feeling about it. So that's probably the first watch that I want to show you guys. And let me flip things over. I know people are probably still waking up, so if I catch you on the playback, that's good enough for me. But let's flip things over. So this is the actual watch that he's coming out with. Let's clean the screen, clean the crystal. It's all smudged up from the walk. But this is the watch that Dad Mods Watches is coming out with. This is the prototype at least. And so here's the deal with this. Of course it looks very familiar, right? Because we have the SKX kind of casing on here. And one of the biggest feedbacks that I got for this watch is that it does look a little bit big on wrist. And that was because it's the size of the case, right? It is pretty big, but at the same time, it's not as big as it appears. It actually is a little bit compact, but sandblasted throughout the entire case and the bracelet itself. So it kind of looks like it's titanium, but it's not. The bracelet is where I usually start with all my reviews, and the bracelet is very, very nicely made, okay? Everything is nicely milled. We have 3 points of adjustment, which is probably all that you really need is the 3 points of adjustment. Some of them have 5. If you have a larger wrist and the links don't do justice for you, 5 points of contact for adjustment is probably a little bit better in case you have to get a little bit of a bigger watch for it. But at the end of the day, it pulls from inspiration from a couple of places. You see the Sin hands here. You see the big, robust numbers at the 12, 3, 6, and 9. Nice little orange second hand that is kind of like his color trademark for Dad Mods watches. And we have, of course, the owl for the logo. So listen, when micro brands first come out, and this is a prototype, it's not released yet, but he is looking to do the release on Kickstarter. When they first start off, you get a lot of homage styles and a lot of drawn inspiration. That's just a cash flow thing. Obviously, if you don't have $100 grand to drop on a watch to start off with, then you kind of have to not play it safe, but you kind of have to work with what you got, right? So to have things designed specifically and to look very different from what's already out there is very, very difficult, very, very technical. You have to go back and forth with the manufacturing multiple times, and then you're not even entirely sure if you don't have relationships with manufacturers if that in fact is going to be a good one. So there's a lot into it when you're first starting off and you're first creating, the first timepiece that you're releasing. So for his prototype, for this prototype to come out, and I'm gonna do an in-depth review of it, but I can tell you guys now, I'll spill the tea. It's well made, 100%. So the bracelet articulates very nice. The whole entire thing is sandblasted. We have a sterile case back, okay? Sterile, no logoing on the clasp itself. But again, sandblasted throughout. We have no polishing here. It's all one tone, and it's a very tool rugged type of look, and that's what draws me to it the most. But for me, what I really value from this prototype is, I don't know if you guys are like me. When I started collecting like 4 or 5 years ago, the SKX 007 was long gone by then. Price hikes happened. What I did do was I was able to get the 009, and I did change out the bezel to resemble something like this. So it kind of hits home for me, and it is something that I do want to grab. Not only, to be completely transparent, I do like Dad Mod's watches. He has his own channel where he just released a video about this. So if you guys want to see it broken down, you can go and check it out. But you know, at the end of the day, for me, I did miss out on that 007, and I kind of forgot about it because I got the 09 and I was happy with it. Thelonious, what's going on, brother, man? Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're gonna a couple of watches we're gonna talk about here that I got with me, but I'm starting off with this prototype from Dad Mod. For me, it was more so like long and forgotten to grab the '07 because I got the '09 and I was happy with that, of course. But you know, after seeing this model that's going to be released by him, I think I'm going to go ahead and grab it because I like the fact that it doesn't look like an exact model of the '07. It kind of draws inspirations from different places. So it's really like something that it has a spot in my collection for sure. And also, again, being transparent, I do want to support JP and his adventures of starting off a micro brand. I think he's starting off very, very strong with this watch. Unfortunately, you can't feel the quality of it, but I'll give you guys some of the things that I look for when I'm looking at a watch and I'm seeing if it's quality, whether it be Chinese manufactured, whether it be, you know, no matter who's making it, you know, if it's a micro brand, if it's an independent brand. And it's a weird thing, because obviously just looking at the case, maybe you could get some signals from the bracelet. The bracelet's usually the first indication of how much attention is to the watch, because that's the afterthought on a watch for a micro brand or a Chinese brand or whatever the case, any affordable watch, right? They usually, when they're going to cheap out, they're going to cheap out on the bracelet. And we're not getting that here, okay? We're getting a very nice articulating, solid links, solid end links, female end links, or yeah, female end links. Sometimes this end link gets a little stuck, I'll be honest with you, but nothing where it's uncomfortable and everything else. Drilled lugs, which is nice because we don't have the quick release at the link. Everything is milled here at the clasp, and you can see throughout the entire watch that sandblast is pretty nicely even. But one of the indicators is at the crown, and I know that sounds a little weird, but I built a lot of watches and I've ordered a lot of them from, you know, Chinese manufacturing. And what I've realized with ordering parts that are affordable to build, which is okay, which is good, you know, like if you're just starting to mod watches and or you know you're going to build a whole bunch of them, you may not want to spend a whole bunch of money into it. Or the reverse end of it, if you are interested in doing some modding, you may mess around with somebody like Nomoki brand, which we're going to talk about here today. I'm actually really excited to talk about them too. But you might go with Nomoki brand. And the reason for that is you're looking for a step up in quality. This may be 1 or 2 watches that you're going to build, and you want them to last a long time and you want them to function the right way. So going back to the crown, what I've realized in more affordable watches and parts is when you unscrew the crown, it'll feel a little gritty at the crown. Sometimes, like you saw, that popped out. Now that's based on you if you're building it, how you cut that stem. But when you wind the watch, it won't feel as smooth. And then when you secure it, if it is in fact a screw down crown, then that's where a lot of the times you'll feel this kind of resistance on that metal to metal with the threading. And on this watch, off the bat, you're not getting that. It's super smooth, right? It winds the watch really smooth. It moves the hands very smooth. Like this is an NH35 movement in here. It doesn't feel like the typical NH35. It feels a little tighter, right? That's the difference between going with movement that's more expensive, because all of the gears and all of the parts in the keyless works are tighter. All of the gears that, you know, articulate the hands and everything else are closer together. They fit like a glove. So that's where you'll feel the difference inside of the movement when you're messing around with the hands. And I can tell you this, with this movement, again, it's an NH35, but it does feel slightly tighter. It feels a little bit more higher quality. Probably went with something that was like from the manufacturer itself directly. Maybe it was regulated, maybe it wasn't. I'm not sure, but it is well made as far as the casing goes. The finishing is very nice. The bracelet does not feel like any of the affordable watches that I've ever felt, which is good because it is an affordable watch. I don't know what the price is going to be just yet, but I would imagine that he's not going to go too crazy, especially in the first release. And, you know, you just don't get that from the bracelet. Drilled lugs was a nice little thought that he made sure to secure. We do have a signed crown, and it is with the S, signifying the Seiko parts that were used. And that would probably be one of my critiques to him. Maybe I'll tell him. And I think he is working actually on an engraving on the case back, so we probably don't have to get into that. But a phenomenal watch to start off with, for sure. I'm really happy to see this. Date wheel is here. Now, he did match the date wheel to the dial, which is also a big plus for me. On this watch particularly, the date wheel being white would have been a little bit of an eyesore and a takeaway, so I'm glad he put that in stealth. And the lume, there is lume on that date wheel, okay? On the numbers itself, there is lume. Now, that's arguably a little bit more of a party trick, right? Because at the end of the day, right now, this number here for the aperture is receiving a source of light, right? So when I go in the dark, it's going to be lumed. If you were waking up at night, obviously after 12 o'clock, that would change, and then the number next to it wouldn't have been receiving that light source during the day, so it's not going to be illuminated. So some people call it a little bit of a party trick, but I still think it's nice to have that just as an added thing. And I also think that his logo is going to be loomed as well. So this thing is full loomed out. You have a Kenji chapter ring here, which this is the first time me experiencing that chapter ring. I didn't even know that that was a recognizable thing. From the post that I've done with this watch, somebody already realized that it had that chapter ring, so apparently it is a thing. So, I mean, as far as micro brands go, as far as first releases go, I think that this is a very, very strong watch. It is robust. If you have a smaller wrist, maybe it won't fit too well for you. I have about a 7.25-inch wrist, so I'll put it back on wrist just so you guys can see what it looks like. Just give me 1 second. Let's put this back on wrist. And for me, it obviously fits. It's probably just bordering it. It's right on the bone to bone, 7.25-inch wrist, like I said before. But still very, very, very nice. And it's got a lot of character to it and everything else. So that's that. That's Dad's Mods. And again, I'm writing a script for the in-depth review for it. So look out for that. If you do want to see a review, actually, on his channel, if you go to Dad's Mods Watches, on his channel, he's actually assembling this watch, right? So if you want to actually see the parts naked, pre-assembled, then go to his channel, check it out. You guys are going to see exactly what I'm talking about as far as the quality goes and everything else. So with that being said, we have some more watches to show you and showcase. Now, what I'm showing you guys here today is just some stuff that I've been working on, some watches that I've been able to experience, whether it be a loaner, whether it be something that was donated to the channel. And I have some review videos obviously being released. I have one being released today, which I think it's already out. It's 9 o'clock, so you guys will be able to see that. And I believe, let's start off there. That's with the Mark Time Watch. And I've done a lot of coverage on this, so we're not going to go too crazy as far as talking about this. But I do have a review video on this one going in depth with it. We have a Montrose strap on here, FKM, very, 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 very comfortable. That's going to pull from that secondhand red there, so I thought that that was very, very nice to do so. Minimalistic, Bauhaus, Miyota movement. This one in particular is bronze cased. Just has been a pleasure from start to end, and Mark did donate this to the channel, so I'm eternally grateful. And I wanted to talk about this watch, or bring up Mark in particular, because he's actually doing a show today and tomorrow in Philly. I forget exactly the name of the watch event because I just saw it yesterday, but you know, it was kind of last minute and I couldn't figure things out. But I wanted to show my support to him by showing it on the live here today, especially because it's in line with me doing the release of the review for the watch. So it is relative altogether. So let's take it off the band, take it off the pillow here, and show you guys the case back. But you guys are going to see all of this from the review. But it's a nice watch. It's pretty sizable. It fills up the wrist pretty nice. He has his smaller watches. I think it's a 38 for the M5. This one I believe is a 40. But this watch is super clean. Miyota movement. You know, you got that bronze material on there, so you're going to have that patina. And, you know, nothing too crazy as far as decorating the movement, but he did put his own thing on here. You guys are going to see some close-up shots of this when you check out the review itself. So big shout out to Mark Time. I hope that this show that he's doing today and tomorrow, and also Vario is at that show as well. There's a couple of more people over at that Philly show today. So if you guys want to check it out, just type in, like, Google Philly watch fair. I'm sure it'll come up, and I'll put it in the link in the description just in case. But it's today and it's tomorrow, so you know, if you're watching this after the fact, then you won't make it, or you might not have the time. But great guy, phenomenal watches that he has, and I wish him the best in the show. Him and Vario, I really would have loved to gone up there and meet them both, Ivan and Mark, in person, but it's okay. We got this that we're showing our support from a distance, if you will. So again, on this Montreux FKM strap, very thin at this location of it, gets a little bit thicker, but super comfortable. I've also done an interview with him as well. So if you guys have time, check that out. You know, see the in-depth review that I've done for Montreux straps. So we've done an interview with Mark Time and Montreux straps, so it was very fitting for me to show that for you guys here today. And in terms of micro brands, that's going to be where we kick things off, aside from that Dad Mod watches. So the second watch that I want to show you is from Orion. And Ryan, I reached out to him and I asked him if I could, you know, pretty much see a watch of his and do a review of it. And right now it's sitting in my queue to have the release on the review of this. So eventually this review will be released in depth, but super clean micro brand. The dial, very nice, sunburst. Everything is very well done. The bracelet articulates. Like, I like to start off with the bracelet. So this bracelet, I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but like, you know, like the old style bracelets that stretch, that's what it looks like to me. And of course it doesn't stretch, but it is very well done. It articulates very nice. It is solid on these links, but it does feel light at the same time. And we have the clasp here, which is brushed and polished. We have some logoing here. So this is a different case here where we have more tooled micro adjustments, which is nice. You know, you want to get a tight fit. Polished here on the sides. Here's the crown. Now, one thing that I really liked about this watch was, of course, there's a heavy amount of detail. We are getting a Miyota movement as well for this, by the way. That sunburst dial is now nice. That rally track on the side gives it its vintage feel. And of course the bracelet ties that in too. And obviously, you know, this is something that I would definitely keep on bracelet. It probably looks nice on other straps too, but specifically this bracelet's very nice. He's got a high polishing here at a chamfer at the bottom, which just gives it a little bit more dimension in my opinion. And of course the clasp responds very well, has a nice click to it, milled. The only thing I could say is I would do quick release moving forward for the bracelet as an improvement. And of course, obviously on the fly adjustment would be another upgrade. But other than that, it's absolutely phenomenal. High polished on the case back. You have a constellation on here. It's hard to see, it's hard to pick up, but that's on. You can see how high polished it is because on this case back, you can see the back of this bracelet. So super high polishing. It's actually screwed down with screws on this. But what I like the most about this watch, I'm a weirdo, so I like weird things about watches, is the crown, right? There's a lot of watches that I've experienced, and not so much the ones that I've shown you here, because even on Dad Mod's watch, he's got a nice crown on there. But I like that it's slim and it's still wide, right? So for that keyless work function, it's easy to grip, easy to tighten in. You know, if you have bigger fingers especially, that could be a little bit of a hassle. Now, There is a particular finishing, it eludes me. I was trying to kill some time talking about other things to see if I remember. But there is a specific finishing done on the hands, on the applied markers, that elevates the watch. As a micro brand, this is heavily inspired by vintage design, and it absolutely fires on all cylinders in my opinion. If you didn't tell me this was a newer watch, like on the internals and everything else, I would have 100% thought that this was a vintage watch. So I think it hits home there. And then it has some really nice detailed finishing as far as the hands, as far as the indices. And again, when I release the video, you guys will see close-up shots to it. If I get any closer to the camera, it's just going to blur. But it is very, very nice, very, very well done. I'm glad he was able to lend me this watch. This one's getting sent back, but no real qualms with it. The only thing that I could say is on the bracelet, it's arguable if you may not want this high polishing on the case back because it's going to pick up a lot of scratches even by the bracelet itself. It is nice to see that though. I get why he did it because you are trying to, evoke the constellation back there. So having a high polish will give an emotional reaction to the case back. But other than that, man, it is well finished, and I'd love to see some more watches from him if he does come out with other releases. And I give a little bit of a backstory about Nick and the brand and everything else. So stay tuned for that kind of review coming up soon. And I've been very, very impressed with this watch for sure. So it would be something that I recommend. Now, price. I mean, we didn't talk about price too much because on this watch that I showed you in the beginning, it's to be determined. This one is low sevens. We are getting a Miyota movement. Again, there's finishing done inside to kind of justify the price difference of there. Some people may feel like that's a little bit high. I don't like to weigh in too much on price because it's more of what you value out of the watch itself and what, how much you're willing to pay for what you get. I can say that, it is super well finished and you can't see it too much, but this is not just an applied. This is also stainless steel for the logo, for the name. So it gives off a lot of shine. It has a very dressed look to it. And the biggest thing about it is the thickness of it too. Like it's very, very, very thin. So you could dress it up, you could dress it down, you'll certainly fit this underneath the cup. The dimensions, I didn't mention that. So I didn't realize how much I like smaller watches. I've always wore things that were a little bit bigger, a little bit more robust, and they still have their place in my heart. But what I'm realizing is that 38 mark on diameter is actually really, really nice. It's almost just before that old school feel, like some of our fathers used to wear the watches super tiny, and that was just the way that it was worn. And they had one watch, of course. They didn't have a crazy amount of watches like we do. But what I've realized is on the smaller side of watches, there is a strong place for them in the collection. Even if you're not going to dress it up and you're just going to wear it about, throw some jeans on and have more of like a dress down type of look. It's clutch, man. It looks good on wrist, and I'll show you guys the difference. So this is a more robust watch, of course, from JP, Dad Mods. Dad Mods watches. If you guys are just joining in, we talked about this watch earlier. It's a little bit more robust, very toolish, super toolish looking. So I want a watch that looks like this to be on wrist, to be robust and have that kind of look to it. But something like this, dressed down, again, you could get away with both, but I'll show you guys what this looks like on my wrist, 7¼ inch wrist, okay, of course. And look at that. That's super clean, right? It ends just before it gives a little bit more room for my wrist on the ends of it. I think this fits absolutely perfect. It's not too thick, it's not too tall. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm very tempted. It has that vintage look to it. I mean, just look at that on wrist. Like if that doesn't speak vintage, up into the dial, up into the rally, that's super, super clean, super nice. So had a great experience with this watch. I thank Orion very, very much for lending it to me. This will be going back soon. I'll probably hang out with it for a couple more weeks before it goes back. And staying on the topic, so again, I put in the title of this video, micro brands and affordable watches, I believe. So we have both, but so far we've only seen micro brands. And the price of this, I think that this is pushing 500. Miyota Movement. This one is pushing 500. I have to check again. Check out the website. Again, I have a video released on this, so you guys can refer to the website and refer to the pricing of it, just in case I'm off on that. But on the topic of micro brands, I have another watch that I'm going to showcase to you guys, but keep in mind that this watch specifically is not for sale in the term of being a production model. So About Vintage is the company. Instead of using a mechanical movement, they actually utilize a quartz movement that has a smooth sweep. I believe that's the VH31 movement, which I had no idea even existed, to be honest with you, until I got this watch in hand, and I knew something was up because I actually took the crown out on this watch and started winding it, to be honest with you, because I had no idea. Now, the reason why I had no idea is because I didn't necessarily reach out to the brand to experience this watch. This watch in particular is part of an event on Watch Crunch. Okay, so if you guys aren't part of Watch Crunch, I advise that you jump on there if you're a watch enthusiast. It's a lot of great things that go on in there, including the challenges that I host week to week, which is a photo challenge. Basically, there's a theme that's being picked, and you take a picture of the watch based on that theme, and then there's a winner selected, and you get a badge and everything else. So just something to have fun with your watches, aside from just buying them and everything else outside of that. But another event that was taking place on Watch Crunch was a travel watch from the company About Watches, and that was hosted by Ben & Watch on Watch Crunch. That's a lot of watch being said. So he basically collaborated with the company to have this watch sent out. Now it's gone all over the country. It's gone to different countries even. And people wear the watch. They post about it. They get to experience it. And then eventually, after certain people that signed up for it, it goes back to the company. And they're actually going to auction this watch off specifically to charity. But I was happy that I was able to get this watch in just to experience kind of like the finishing and just get a feel for it. Now, again, this is a quartz watch, a quartz movement. It still has a smooth sweep. It has very nice colorway to it. I think that it definitely hits home when it comes to the vintage arena. I don't know if you guys have heard about this company, about vintage, but I think that they did a phenomenal job. I'm not mad at it being a quartz movement, especially if it has that smooth sweep, because I think that that's what mainly attracts us to mechanical watches, is just having that smooth sweep, and or knowing that there's just a machine inside powering your watch. So very, very nice. There is something on the now. I didn't do necessarily a review video talking about this watch in great detail because, again, you guys can't purchase it. So I didn't want somebody to get super hype about the watch and then not be able to purchase it. But they have a lot of models in different colorways that pretty much are a one-for-one design to this. So if you like something like this, I would say just pop on there and take a look. I don't remember exactly the cost. I do remember that this was a lot more affordable than expected. I think this was like around the $300 mark. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, this was really nice to experience. And I made the video regarding this watch more so talking about the events that take place leading to this watch coming into contact with me. So it's more so highlighting that individual, Ben & Watch. It's more so highlighting Watch Crunch. It's more so highlighting the company and how they took part of that. When I see micro brands interacting with the community, when I see micro brands, and I'm not just saying this because I got sent the watch temporarily to just take a look at it and be a part of it. I'm saying it because I do often praise brands for making contact with the community outside of just the shows, through social media and everything else. Like I've often talked about Christopher Ward. Mike is on Watch Crunch and he often does posts. You can message him directly and he's going to answer you. And that's something that I like. Obviously, it's advantageous for the company to do so, right? Because they don't have a store, even though Christopher Ward just opened up a store. I believe it's in Texas, but you get what I'm saying. Most micro brands don't have a location, so staying in contact with us, having a really nice built web design, all of those things encompassing, I think is very important. And then when they go an extra step and they do something like this, where they send their a watch, or in this case, again, it's going to be an auction watch, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. It could just be a watch that they do as a travel watch, right? A watch that goes around. And keep in mind, I'm obviously a content creator that they sent this to, but all of the other people that were involved are not necessarily content creators. They do posts on Watch Crunch, but they don't do videos like this. I think that I'm the only one that got sent this one in to do some content on. And they didn't necessarily ask me to do this, right? This is just my way of reporting back or putting it out there. So I just thought it was really cool, man. And to top things off, when this does get back to them, again, they're going to auction this watch off for charity. So there's going to be some more details on this and more in-depth thing about the events as is to come from my channel itself. So that was about vintage. We had Mark Time, we had Orion watches, and we had that new release from Dad Mods watches on here that I wanted to showcase for you guys on the micro brand end. So all very, very nice stuff. All of them, honestly, I don't have anything bad to say. Now, I'm going to address that. So I'm sorry for the shaking, guys. It's raining right now, and I didn't expect it to rain. So my setup, you guys are actually on a chair right now. So obviously I keep hitting that a little bit, but here's the deal. So I obviously, as a content creator and a reviewer of watches, I get watches sent in, and I always talk highly about the watches coming in. I always try to do good reviews for them as much as possible. Of course, I'm fair and I'm honest, and I say how they can improve and everything else. What do I do if I get a watch that I don't necessarily like? I don't want to hold this watch because that's not the case for that. But let me flip things around. This is a weird angle, guys. I'm sorry again. I didn't plan for you guys to be on a chair, but let me angle myself. So what do I do if I get a watch that is just horrible, right? I hope that never happens, but if it does, I probably will contact the company and I won't do a review on it, because you and I don't really gain anything from me just destroying a watch. If it's terrible, then I will still do a review on it. I won't post it, right? It'll just be I'll probably write a script for it and how I would normally do, except for all of the details on the bracelet, on the finishing, this, that, and the third. But I'd write a detailed email to the company and I'd say, hey, look, thank you so much for sending me the watch. I really do appreciate it. Here's the deal. I feel like the watch has a lot of improvements, and in my own personal opinion, is not ready for market just yet. So my advice to you would be to look at some of the things that I'm critiquing. Don't stop there. Send it out to other reviewers, because I'm not end all be all, see where things line up, like what is being said repetitively, and then improve the watch before you bring it to market. That would be my recommendation. Because as a watch person, as a company that creates watches, your reputation is everything. And once it's out there that you built a terrible watch, there are reviewers that are going to put it out there, right? They're gonna put a review out there and they're gonna say, this watch was absolutely horrible. Don't buy it. Stay away from it. And that's exactly how they're going to lay the law down for that. So be very careful. If any, watchmakers or any independent brands, whatever, is listening to this, obviously independent brands are not gonna, I don't think, give us something of very low quality. But I also do Chinese brands. I also do, and not to say that they're bad, but they are affordable. And with affordability, there are cost cuts and everything else, like I mentioned before, for bracelets and everything. But they may take a lazy route for finishing. They may take a lazy route for, case, whatever it is. And if I got a watch that was like that, I'm going to just send it back to them and say, hey, listen, I don't want to make a review of this because I'm going to be talking about a lot of negatives. And I don't want to be up here talking bad about a watch. That's not my style. I rather give you a list of things that you can improve on and take it from there. Good to know Chris Ward is in Texas now. Yeah, I believe, Martin, good morning. I believe that they are in Texas. I think they just opened up a location there. So check that out. If you're not on Watch Crunch, Martin, you can download that. But I'm pretty sure Mike probably put that up on Instagram, or Chris Ward put it up on Instagram, talking about the opening and everything else. So that's exciting. I don't think anybody's necessarily surprised by that, because Chris Ward is taking the definition of micro brand or independent brand to another level, coming out with their own stuff. So it's pretty nice. I would love to see what it looks like on the inside, and if I'm ever around, I definitely will come check it out. So, you know, that's pretty cool that they're opening something up. So anyway, guys, that's my that's kind of just like the random thoughts that are coming to mind on micro brands and how I look to review them and everything else, because it's all going to be honest. I think in every review I have a balance where I talk about improvements, right? I don't like to use weaknesses or what do they call it? Positives or negatives. There's just improvements, right? Unless the thing falls apart in my hand, it's just an improvement that they can do. And they may have a feature on there. They may have a clasp. Let's use that as an example. They may have a clasp that's effective. The only way that that clasp, in my opinion, isn't effective is when it doesn't have micro adjustments, especially we're talking about a bracelet here, because obviously your wrist is going to swell. It doesn't have the luxury like a leather band or any other kind of material where you can do an adjustment on a different hole. Therefore, you need at least the micro adjustments on there. Quick release for the bracelet, it's nice to get there, but I think that the what do you call that? The quick release for the clasp, where you do the adjustment quicker on there, is probably more important. It's okay to have the tooled one and to get there, but you know, those are some of the things that normally I can see and tell them to do an improvement on. So moving forward from the actual micro brand space on what I've been experiencing and what I've been able to have. So we have Zezimi. Zezimi sent me a watch. I am releasing a review video, I think tomorrow, on this one specifically. This is not the band that was on there. I actually end up switching that out. This was a prompt too. I really wasn't expecting to do an actual live. It's kind of just like when the timing is right. But Zezimi, as in sesame with a Z. Now, hang on before I lose you. Because, you know, listen, there's other reviews on this watch, and obviously the name of the company is very, very striking. It's very, very different. It causes an emotional reaction. Let's say that, right? So Zezimi is actually the name of the brand. This is the style of watch that they've come out with, and there has been some reviews on it. And I was interested because I kind of felt like I was getting a little bit of a mixed feel for the watch when I watched reviews. Some were, you know, saying that it was fantastic. Some were saying that, you know, it's this, that, and the third. So I reached out to them and I said, hey, you know, my normal jargon, I'm a reviewer, you know, if you want to send me your... So they actually donated this one to the channel, so I'm greatly appreciative of it. And I did break this down completely. And actually, it's kind of a good thing that I have this white band on here. We'll get into that. But my whole point was, I like to see up-and-coming brands. This is a kind of a fairly new brand, right? You don't see too much on it. You don't see it talked about too much. But if you are watching this and now you know, when you type this in, you will see some reviews on it, and you will see some people talking about it as far as a creator goes. And one of the biggest things that this was related to as far as a homage, and homages are often talked about, especially when it comes to outside of a micro brand, it being just like a more affordable watch. You know, homages are talked about quite often. And a lot of people were saying that this watch looks like the Alpinist, right? I think it's the Sarb 017. That's where I think a lot of people felt like it was coming from because of the cathedral style hands especially. And not so much on this model. You'll see in my review, I pull up the green colorway version of this, the green dial, and it has green and gold tones. And okay, obviously I could see that on there, but Lone Ranger is strolled in on his white horse. What's up, brother man? Good morning. So because of the hands, because of the way that it just looks aesthetically, it was quite often compared to the Alpinist, again, on the green dial colorway. But what I have came to found with the watch in general, after getting close up to it, getting close up on the finishing, we have some branding on here. One thing I can say is this. The bracelet on this, and I wish I had it on here, and I'll explain. I didn't take the bracelet on here because it was bad. Their bracelet was actually pretty good. And I removed the bracelet because I wanted to finish out the summer in my white kind of type of bands before it's all too late. And of course it matches the hands very nicely. So the bracelet was very nice. They actually included a leather strap with it, okay, and a watch roll. So I think this is around the high twos. Like this is close to $300. I want to say it's like about $250 if I'm not mistaken. But check it out, you know, Google it, see what the price is. But for that price, the packaging was absolutely phenomenal, number one. I think in the past they had like a smaller yellow box. I didn't receive that. I don't know, and I hope that it changes moving forward and everybody receives the big box that I got, because in the big box it had a watch roll, it had an additional strap, no Lone Ranger, it was not a sailcloth, unfortunately. This is a FKM. This is a FKM's strap that's on it, but it included a leather strap, included a bracelet, and the bracelet to this, which is where I often again find the weakness with the affordable watches. The bracelet on this was actually fairly nice, very, very well done. You guys will see in the review tomorrow when it's released, you know, where it could improve on the bracelet, if any. But I was fully impressed. I mean, we have a 6 o'clock date wheel here. They went with black, which I'm okay with. The only thing, Space G, what's going on, buddy? Space G's in the building. The only thing that I can find from this watch, and it's a kind of like a stupid thing, but not, when I went to the website and when I requested this model specifically to be sent to me, I was expecting a white dial. And even in the light source that you guys can see here now, and going back to why I said that I was happy that I had the white strap on here, is because you can see that this is white, the hands are white, the dial is more of a silver tone, and it is in fact a silver dial. So what you can't see right now, and you will see in my review, is that when you get very close up on here, this has vertical brushing on the dial itself, and it looks absolutely handsome with that. So we are getting some finishing done to the dial. We are getting a nice robust crown for a keyless work function. It is signed here. The bracelet also has a signature on it. Their leather strap actually has a buckle at the end that has like a shield shape. Not on this one, obviously, but on their leather one, and again, you'll see it in my review, they have like a nice brushing and polishing. The finishing, guys, affordable watches are stepping up their game. And when I started collecting about 4 or 5 years ago, they were already pretty good. They're getting a lot better. And this company is following suit with it. And they're putting extra thought into packaging, giving us an extra strap. There was a watch roll in there. And if you're looking for an Alpinist alternative, maybe on the green dial, I don't know, it's up to you. It could be there could be an argument to be made. I kind of feel like it's a little bit different, aside from maybe the cathedral hands, but I think it stands a little bit more on a line. Obviously, we're not seeing anything new here for the dial, the indices, and everything. It's nothing like, they're not reinventing anything, yeah, but they are doing something a little different. Now, these indices are black, but they do still have lume to it, which was kind of shocking to me. There's lume on the hands as well. Is it Seiko lume? No, it's not as strong as Seiko lume. It's not something that I hate necessarily either, but overall, for the cost, and if it's right for your collection, you wouldn't go wrong with it. You may have to get past the name Zezimi. Personally, to me, I don't think it's a big deal. I actually like the name Zezimi. I think it's zesty. But, you know, I have no issues with it. I thought it's kind of like a fun name to put to the, you know, you can see the finishing on the crown here. You have polished, you have brushed, you have the logo inside of it. So they did a phenomenal job, man. They did a phenomenal job. I'm not mad at it. I love affordable watches because we could afford a lot more of them. And I'm sure you guys feel the same way. So I thought it was a very, very nice. And the crown, again, the crown is very, very wide. So the keyless functions, It's very easy to mess around. This is a screw down or screw in crown, as it will. So that's also great too. So had a lot of fun with this. Did a review. We're actually talking about doing their Nighthawk as well, so we'll do a breakdown in there. But I have a review coming out tomorrow on this. Mark Time is coming out today, or actually it already is out as I'm double covering it here. But check this one out too, guys, when the video comes out. And last but certainly not least, how many watches do you have? At this point, I have a total, so I don't know the exact count. I did count them, but I got more watches in since then. So I'm definitely sub 50. I'm probably late 40s on watches. So, you know, all of them are affordable. All of them are sub 1,000. Most often sub 500. A lot of G-Shocks, a lot of affordable watches and stuff like that. You know, I don't have particularly any luxury watches, so I stick to my own lane when it comes to talking about watches. I don't know much about luxury watches. I'm not mad at them, but at the end of the day, affordable watches has been what's most attractive to me, and I can't wait to this. I'm going to bring it up again. I can't wait to anybody who stepped in. I can't wait till this one comes out. This is a prototype from Dad Mods watches, and I can tell you this: it's going to be a very, very strong watch coming out the gate. As far as quality, as far as drawing inspiration, as far as being a tool watch, I'm a kid in the candy shop, and I can't wait for that one to come out. So I'm also going to do an in-depth review of this as well. I'm at right now talking about the script. I actually want to go back and forth with the owner, JP, about a couple of things and how, you know, just give him my opinion on it. But I'm about 90% done with the script. There's a couple of things, like I said, that I want to talk to him about that. But super excited about that. Now, Sub Plus Explorer vibes. Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, so the last watch that I'm going to showcase here is, no, it's not titanium, Lee. I actually said that in the beginning. It looks titanium, doesn't it? This is actually sandblasted all over entirely, like no polishing, just complete, like a hammer of a watch, just complete tool. I love that. It isn't titanium, which, again, I'm okay with it. It would have been kind of cool if it was, but this is super cool. And the fact that it's finished like this, you know, it's a lot less likely to receive any scratches, and it just completely looks like an absolute tool watch. So this is pretty exciting stuff. Love that one, like Sabo and Sin had a baby. Yeah, Space. That's exactly the first and foremost vibe that I got right away. Sin for the hands, obviously the SKX for the casing. I mentioned earlier that I missed out on the 07, like I'm pretty sure many of us have. So this will probably scratch that itch. And of course, to be completely transparent, I'm supporting my guy no matter what. So that also played a part in me picking this up. But even if you didn't know JP for a hole in the wall, Dad Mods watches, it's definitely a watch that's going to have value. I don't know the price point of it yet. I think he's still working that out to release this on Kickstarter. But by then, I'm thinking I'm going to have a review video posted around the same time, either the same day that he does it, a couple hours before or whatever, but you guys will have an in-depth. But he also did a video on this, so go to his channel. He actually has this watch completely taken apart. So yes, he is on Watch Crunch. He did a video on this where he has all the pieces laid out. So before I even release my video, you can check out his. You can watch him assemble it. He's an absolute phenomenal watch modder as is, and you guys can see him put it together. You can kind of see the parts naked. You can see the full dial and everything else, the casing. So, and he actually goes into his expectations for the production models on exactly the features that he wants before he releases it. So you guys will definitely see, you know, everything of the watch and how it's going to be produced when it's ready for market, if you will. So I'm so excited about this watch, man. I'm so excited about the, I'm so excited about the watch. I'm so excited for JP, you know, and you could even see on camera, I think, a little bit of that AR, Blue AR coating on there. Super cool. Oh, one other thing, I'm sorry. It kind of reminded me. Another thing that I wanted to highlight about Zesmi is, in the past, this crystal was a mineral crystal, and after the watch was reviewed by some of the influencers and some of the reviewers, they actually changed it to where this is now a sapphire crystal. So I like to give my flowers whenever they're due, and the fact that they're listening to their reviewers and not just using it as a marketing tool, they're using it as actual feedback. They actually, the watch that they sent me, which is this watch, this is actually a sapphire crystal, which yes, I did test at home just to make sure. So that was also really nice to discover, and I'm looking for that. As a reviewer, as a person who collects watches myself, I'm looking for, whether or not it be an affordable brand or an independent brand, I'm looking to see if they're actually listening to our feedback and how they're responding. So in my optics, they responded pretty quickly. I don't know how long they had this watch released prior to having that mineral crystal, but by the time that they sent one, they said, hey, look, we're planning to put a sapphire crystal on here. We're going to send you that one. So, just so you know for the specs, that's something that is going to be now featured on the watch. So, last but not least, and we're on here for about an hour. Let me just check on chat. I'm late. I just tuned in. Handsome watch. Water resistance. Oh, I'm all over the place. Are you talking about this watch on the water resistance? I believe on this one, JP is doing 200 meters. Don't quote me. I'll take a look and we'll address that, of course. But I think that this one's going to be 200 meters effectively of water resistance. So obviously he wants this to be a tool watch. He wants this to even work for people that are in, the servicing of being a police officer, fireman, all that other stuff. Like, he wants it to also be a part of his target audience. So he's going to make sure that that's going to fit well for them and be able to handle the job at task at that point. Anyway, last but not least, and we got to wrap things up here, but this watch I'm super excited to talk about. And if you don't like homage watches, then I'm so sorry, but this is the way it's going to go right now. And I'll tell you why. Before you tune off, if homage watches are not for you, this is by Namoki Mods. And this is not just a watch that you purchase. This is a watch that you put together. This is part of their new kits that they just came out with. And when I saw this, I salivated and I was all over it. And we talked about the Seiko Alpinist, the SARB 017, I believe. Obviously, I was relating it more to this watch with the hands, but this is obviously and they're calling this the Alpine kit. I had to have it. I reached out to my contact at Namoki Mods because, as you guys know, I've been doing some live builds. I reached out to them because I heard through the grapevine and through actually going back to JP, he's done a lot of builds primarily from their parts. So I was curious to see what the quality was. I had high expectations for it because, if he's using a whole bunch of their parts from most of his videos, then I had a lot of hope in that. So with the builds, I did see the quality come into play for all of the parts and all of the finishing and everything else. So this one in particular, when I saw it being released, had to have it. Why? Because it goes back to that SKX 007. I missed out when I started collecting on the SARB 017. And, the price hike with it, I think at this point, if you're going for the Seiko original and you're going for the first release, it's around $800 now, 800 plus, right? With the other one, with the re-release from the Pro Specs, I think that's now $725 in cost. So, I'm sorry, Seiko, but I had to have this one. It did make me feel like I had some redemption, and it was fun because I actually got to build this myself. So if you're like me and you missed the boat on that watch, this is now called the Alpine by Namoki Mods. You can buy a kit with all the parts, obviously separated, and then you put it together, and we do get an internal rotating bezel, just like the original. I specifically asked them for the black date wheel to resemble the original. I believe the original also had a black date wheel. If I was wrong, I was wrong, but I felt like this watch needed a black date wheel to go with the dial. But yeah, I was stoked, man. I had to get it in hand. I had to build it. I had to put it together. By then, I already knew that Namoki was going to give me high quality parts, so I was very confident. And I took my time putting this together. And I didn't do a live with me building this, obviously, because it's already built. But I did record myself building it. It's a 25-minute video. It's not released yet. I'm going to release it in a couple of weeks. I have final edits, but like all my build videos, it's 25. Listen, I could do cuts and I could show you cuts from me building it within 5 minutes. But what I like to do is when I build a watch, I like to give you guys full details on every step, things to look out for, things that I've done that were wrong and compromised the build. So I like to go step by step, whether I'm doing a live build like I did last time with the Nomoki brand watch, or I'm doing a recording for it. That one, like I said, is 25 minutes and it is a little bit long, but that's because it's worth watching if you're going to tackle building your own watch, because as I'm assembling, I'm like, okay, you have to look out for this, and that when you're doing this, right? And it's kind of important because when you buy Nomoki brand's kit, they only give you one set of hands. We all know that second hands can be tricky. We all know that cutting the crown stem can be tricky. So, you can repurchase parts and finish the mod itself, but if we can avoid it, we can avoid it. But anyway, they have two versions of this out. They have a GMT version, which I think is parallel to what's available now with Seiko, and then they have this version, which I went with the standard look to it from the Moki, because I missed the boat on the original Alpinist, and I kind of forgot about it, right? So if you guys haven't noticed, the icon to this channel actually has a lot of inspiration from the SAR, because the first watch that I attempted was a homage, or at least it was supposed to be somewhat resembling the Seiko Alpinist, right? And if you watch my video where I talk about that watch, and again, it's the watch that I have in my logo, it's the bronze watch, it now has changed, but when I first put the dial in the watch that I built, it was a Seiko dial and it had this sunburst green to it, so it heavily resembled it. But since then, I've done a lot of different changes to it, but obviously, this is going to be a one-for-one. Now, what I did like from them is they gave the option for a bracelet, which you don't have to get, right? You can get whatever parts you want out of it. There are several colorways that you can do for the dial, for the rotating chapter ring. They have different colorways. You don't have to go with this one per se. I forget off top what are all the arrangements, but you can go with a three-hander. You can build the GMT version of this, which is also very nice. And then, obviously you're going to want the casing, because that's going to be what helps produce that homage style to it. Now, this bezel, what was a little different from the builds is this bezel is actually screwed in from the inside of the back of the case, and it does have a gasket sitting around there to help secure it too. And obviously that is to help give some room for this rotating internal chapter ring. So that was the only thing that I found that was different. And it was something that I noted on the review, and I gave you guys some, tips and tricks and, things to look out for that. It's pretty much straightforward. I'm not trying to scare you guys if you are thinking about doing a custom watch yourself. But it is some key things that I could find. But all in all, this watch came together beautifully. The parts are clearly made in a well refinement, because everything just drops in nicely. The little screws that secure this bezel into the front of this case are very, very nice quality. You'll see it in the video when I release it. The casing obviously has a very nice finish to it, a lot of polishing. This is a thumbprint magnet, unfortunately, but I'm okay with that because it again resembles that original Seiko Alpinist. So yeah, man, I had to have this one, and I'm super happy to finally, and again, I kind of forgot about it after making my own version of it, but again, that one is in bronze. It's the one in my logo. But once I saw the opportunity from Nomoki, I actually like their logo too, that little X. Obviously, it wouldn't have been a good idea to have Seiko logo on there, but I like that little X, debatable with the pro specs and everything else, but everything is applied. Everything is a one-for-one. Everything is in its right place. Now, the only thing I can say about this watch is it does have a screw-down crown. But again, because of this additional crown that rotates the bezel, this is not screw-in. And then the bezel itself, like I mentioned before, is actually screwed in from the back. It does have a gasket. So, like, if it's raining, if I'm washing my hands, stuff that is light is completely fine with this watch as far as aquatic goes. I think they list this one, Nomoki, at 100 meters of water resistance, but because of those compromises here, potential compromise, again, it has a gasket, so you don't have to be afraid, but submerging it is a different story with this watch. I won't submerge this watch. I won't jump in the pool with it. I don't feel super confident in those points of failure. being a compromise. But you know, this is more of a dress watch anyway. It's an exploring watch, you know, hiking, things of that nature, everything except for aquatic, I would say. And listen, it may hold up. You know, I could be completely wrong. Swimming pool, snorkeling, something that's light. But again, this is a screw down crown. Fantastic. This crown does not get screwed in, and that rotates the bezel, right? So point A of water getting in there, and then this is screwed in, this bezel from the back of the case on the inside. So there is a gasket involved in here, but that means that there is a greater part of spacing that you're going to get, it not being manufacturally sealed and everything else, because you are putting this together yourself. So Trap Vision 3D is in the building, brother man, just in time, because I'm almost done here, but I am going to talk about what we got going on a little bit later. But lastly, for this watch, I want to talk about is the Jubilee bracelet. So this is an option as well, and we're going to talk about price here too, because the reason why I didn't get the original is because of the price hike, and you're not going to find it new. You're going to find it used, and you're going to find it at $800. If you go with the Pro Specs, you're going to get about $7.25, something like that. With the GMT, it's probably a little bit more. So Namoki is selling this whole entire set for around a $400 mark. I think the closer number to it before taxes is like $377. Minus the bracelet, which you don't have to get. It's up to you. I think that this is another... I think it was around $50 to $70. So effectively, if you just wanted to build this watch, and again, you have different options and colors that you can get to do this. You don't have to go with the traditional Alpinist colorway. I think that this was like around $322. So, you know, $322 to get a one-for-one, if you will, minus the logo, of course, versus the original that's going to be used around $800, or getting the brand new Pro Specs version of it, which is $700. Plus you get the added fun if building a watch is your idea of fun. Maybe you've never tried it before. Maybe you want to start here because it inspires you to get that Alpinist look. I don't know. But you're getting it for less than half the cost, essentially, right? So, I mean, that's the reason why it was a home run for me, and I had to have it, and I didn't have to worry about the quality of parts and everything else. They're an actual company. My correspondence with Namoki brand has always been top notch, at least as a reviewer end, right? Because if you're a customer, I can't speak to that, but I would imagine that if they're communicating to reviewers in a way that they're going to also follow suit with their customer service. So you at least have peace of mind if you have any kind of issue with any of the parts, or if something just doesn't work out, or if you have a question and you're doing a build, you can at least refer to the company and they can help you out with anything technical in that end, right? So that is all the watches that I have to showcase for you guys. Independent brands, phenomenal independent brands, some affordable watches, some of the things. So all of those watches were things that I have been working on, things that I've experienced. Again, I have some reviews coming out for some of them. Some of them already are out. Mark Time is coming out today that I showed earlier. The Zezeme's coming out Sunday. Orion is going to be released a little bit later. The Alpinist is going to be released a little bit later, and that's going to be a little bit different. That's not necessarily a watch review. This was more of a watch review than that video will be. That's more like for watch building, right? Because I like to, when I do the watch builds, I like to explain all of the things that can go wrong. And there's a lot more things that can go wrong with the watch build than you think, and I don't want to scare anybody. But I don't want to set up unrealistic expectations for when you're deciding to customize a watch. So it is helpful to watch, and then don't just watch me, watch other people do the builds. I'm just a normal collector like you guys. I've been building watches as a hobbyist. I'm just a normal guy with a 9 to 5 that picked up watch building or watchmaking or whatever you want to customizing as a hobby. So, you know, do your homework. Don't just stop with me. But I definitely would say that versus other stuff that's out there, I do go into depth and I do go into detail when that goes on. So yeah, Trap, what's going on, brother man? Being in the building, Space Sheet, what up, Lee? Yeah, the squad's here. So guys, for those of you that are still here, Trap and I are doing a live at 3 p.m. today. What's his name? Robert Wood. He's also going to be on there. So the idea was this, right? And it wasn't my idea. It was actually on one of Trap's lives. I think it was Robert Wood or Random Rob. One of the guys had mentioned, hey, we should do a live quickly in the chats. And I was like, yeah, that's a phenomenal idea. I thought that if we get a bunch of, content creators that talk about watches all come together and really talk about, where YouTube is for content creators that speak about watches. We can talk about what we're doing specifically for our channels. We can talk about what drives us to contribute to the community, how we're planning to contribute to the community, all encompassing. And I really love for you guys to be there. I know it's Saturday and you probably want to enjoy it, but if not anything else, look at the playback, ask your questions. It is going to be on Trap's channel. That's Trap Vision 3D, if you guys don't know by now, which pretty much, I'm pretty sure you guys all know. We're going to hop on there. It's going to be on his channel. He already has something that's showcasing that at 3 p.m. for notifications and everything else. But again, if you can't see it live, for sure watch the playback. We're going to have a dialogue that I'm sure is going to draw up questions for you guys and kind of like a behind the scenes look for some of the stuff that we talk about and some of the directions that we want to go. So super hype about that. Space G, I see you're in here. Thank you so much for posting about it, man. You're always here to show your unwavering support. I do appreciate that. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's all that I really wanted to bring up with you guys. We're now well past an hour. I'm just going to catch up on chat before I close out. Lee, I'm going to give you, so all the watches I showed today are going to be done as a review, as I said like a million times by now. So if you message me on Watch Crunch, Lee, I'll definitely give you any information that you want, but just also be aware that macro shots, micro shots, whatever, is going to be in my reviews. Obviously, it's going to be a full breakdown, but anything that I went over today, if you have questions on, Lee, just hit me up. I'll definitely give you the breakdown for that. Rotate the bezel, bro. Oh, yeah, I think that was on Dad's Mods or that was on the Alpinist. All right, guys, so yeah, man, if you have time, check us out. Big shout out to Trap for putting it all together for us to come together. That's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you guys have some time to join us. And last thing I'm going to say, guys, is please don't forget, it all started with a watch. No matter where your watch collection journey takes you, no matter how you decide to collect, you guys are all welcome on this channel and in this community, as you should be. I appreciate you guys for checking out this very shaky live that I had to do. Again, it started raining, so I did the best I could, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.